And you are now listening to Coach Ham Chronicles, the show that spills all types of leadership tea for your everyday life. Here's the deal. If you have not already subscribed, make sure you click that red button at the bottom. Definitely sign up for any program that you deem feels worthy. I can't wait for you to meet my guest today. It's going to be so freaking dope. Make sure you grab a pen, a pencil, a notebook, an iPad, whatever it is, or better yet, your phone. Definitely take some notes because this guest is about to drop all types of gems. So, hey, sit back, relax, definitely listen the whole way through because you already know I'm about to give you a couple of extra things at the end. All right, let's do this. Going on, I'm super excited that I got my girl that is here. We're about to start talking about being Black, climbing the corporate ladder, and also figuring out a couple of things in between. So I have a veteran. She is the CEO and founder of, why am I just tripping up today? Of Life After Service Transitional Coaching. So if you are in that market of trying to figure out where you need to go, how to pivot, also if you are transitioning from one job to another, this is going to be the person that you need to hit up, talk to, advise, and get all types of gems. All right, so let me bring her on real quick so we can start having a conversation.
Hey.
Hi. How art thou?
Thou is good.
All right. So please tell our fancy guests who are you, what you do, and why you're so freaking dope.
I'm so dope because I help women. Honestly, at the heart of it, I help women start their businesses from scratch, their coaching practices from scratch.
Okay.
I started off with veterans and I still have a heart for veterans. On the corporate side, I help organizations retain their good veteran new hires. But my passion is helping in this season is to help women start their coaching practices from scratch because there's just not enough information out there to help startup coaches. It's like, oh, charge nothing and then work your way up, and nobody got time to be broke.
No, girl, that's a whole nother episode. We need to start talking about of how to even start brand spanking new, especially because there's so many people out there now that is charging for this, right? There's this service that for a lot of people who are coaches, which I cannot honestly stand that word because it's so overly saturated, especially if you were in the DC area because everybody in their mama a coach.
Listen, I'm certified. I am board credentialed, ICF, ACC, and God willing, I'll be PCC by the end of the year. I'm certified. I'm a real coach.
Hello, it's the credentials for me. I got that BCC, and I'm now working towards the ACC as well. As a girlfriend kept on pushing me, like, go for your ACC. I'm like, look, I gotta do stuff in small tidbits before we.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
Yeah, but we'll talk about credentialing later. All right. So we're really talking today about climbing the corporate ladder. A lot of people, especially yours truly, we try to find just different avenues to make additional, income revenue. But when we started talking about just there's another avenue inside to being able to climb the corporate ladder, especially being brown. So it's not just for us Black women. We're talking about our Latinas, Asian
people of color,
all the colors, right?
Yes.
So I guess my first question to you is, what does that look like for someone who is of color that's trying to climb the corporate ladder, but they just don't know where to go or how to start?
So you need to find yourself a sponsor. And that's hard to do because a lot of companies don't have functioning sponsorship programs, or they don't really recognize sponsorship. They want to call it mentorship. The reason I say you want to find a sponsor is because a mentor will give you information in the hopes that you will return information to them, because you're at a certain level they can no longer tap into. If you're in a C-suite, you can't go down to the ground level and find out what people's true thoughts are. So you need somebody to do that. But sponsorship is like, look, I'm going to take you by the hand. You're going to meet who I meet, eat what I eat, go where I go. And that is important. That's particularly important for those of us of color who want to move up, but people are just looking over us. You need somebody to say, look, this person is an appendage and you need to respect my appendage. Like I'm going to eat filet mignon. They are too. Get them a plate. I'm going to this high level networking event. they're coming to.
Yep.
It tends to happen with men, particularly Caucasian men or white men, because that is just how they communicate over centuries. They just gotten used to saying, hey, come with me to golf and come with me to lunch. But those of us of color, I don't think we set ourselves up for sponsorship. I know for me, I'm really quiet and standoffish. Like right now, I'm just running my mouth. But for me to meet somebody new, I was just like, mm-mm. And I had a friend who was like, come on. And I'm like, what do I say? Like, I don't even know if I like this person, or that person. So
hello, prejudging straight off the gate.
Right? Like off the gate, like, no.
I don't like none of them. I can smell it.
And honestly, it boiled down to how I felt about myself based on what other people tell me. You're not polished enough, you're not smart enough, all these things. So for us, women of color, we're so used to us being told that we're not enough in some way, shape, or form. The idea of approaching somebody and saying, hey, I want you to sponsor me. What does that look like? How do I get into that space is a difficult conversation. Because we're not often accepted as we are. Like the House of Congress, or I'm sorry, the Congress just approved Friday maybe that businesses can't discriminate based on hair. They just approved this on, I think it was Friday. I got to find the article. A year or two before, the Supreme Court said it was okay.
Right.
So for them to go from it to go from being practiced that we can't look the way we want to, for the law system to say we can legally not hire you because you don't look like us, to going into no, that's not right. That's a lot. And so those who actually make it to the C-suite, I commend them because they've had to change. They had to live like two people.
Right.
They had to code script in public and then be their true self out of work. And that can be difficult.
That's annoying.
Yeah, like you don't want to have to feel like you need to talk differently. And not only do you have to be careful of how scripted you are in code scripting, because our community will reject you. Oh, you sound white, you act like you bougie, you know what I'm saying? So if you code script too much, you're not accepted amongst the people you want to be accepted. But if you don't code script enough, you can't make any money.
Right. So let's talk about that for a moment, right? So we're talking now about authenticity. How much of your true self should you bring to the workplace, especially if you are trying to rise up and start getting into these C-suite positions, from the CFO to the CPO, because that's the newest thing. It's the Chief People's Officer. I actually just had a conversation with someone who's a CPO, but I like their company. Their company is a minority company. It's two Black brothers that are actually brothers, former military veterans like yourself. They created an ad agency, but as they're building a whole nother side, which is just different services, professional development, all that stuff, they had a CPO, and I kind of had to go into like LinkedIn and Google University, figure out like what exactly does a Chief People's Officer do, right?
Human resources.
Boop, is that part. So it's all of HR, but with like a little dash of adobo to say, look, I want to make sure that you have what you need. I can get what I can get in this, that, and the third. Minority male, Hispanic. So I was like, okay, cheers to y'all. Like y'all are saying it, y'all are doing it, this, that, and the third. But for those who are literally trying to figure out exactly like how authentic is authentic when we're starting to climb. Like I know for me at this point, I got skin in the game. I'm now almost 15 years into the government. So for me, I'm like, it's all gloves off. Like you gonna take me as I am, or you could leave it at the door where you came from, sir.
So I'm gonna leave that space up to you because I didn't make it that far up. I started my own business because I didn't feel like anybody was seeing my capability. They would use it,
Yep.
it'd be like, look, we need an idea. This is great. But when it came down to having that honest conversation of advancing, I was always like considered insubordinate, which was a misrepresentation because I was just upfront. No,
Yep.
this is not going to work. Yes, this is going to work. No, yes, no. Like I was very clear. And then it's like, oh, that's insubordination. Well, insubordination is not asking you privately and quietly not to talk to me like I'm crazy.
That part.
That's what it's not.
That part.
Right. So I left completely and just had my own practice. So I'm going to leave it up to you because you are the realest person that I have spoken to. Not to say that other Black women in the corporate space haven't been real, but you seem like you're raw real. Like, listen, I wrote a new code.
Yeah. And rolling the eyes is 101. Okay. I'll be teaching that class in the spring. Right. How to be like, it is what it is.
Yes.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think even getting to this place, right, of being a chief of staff, and people hear that, they're like, oh my God, that's huge. I'm like, but is it? And it all depends on how you utilize. Like when I'm looking at Biden's chief of staff, or I looked at Trump's many chiefs of staff, a lot, that's shade, I know. A lot of what became really clear was using your power to be able to influence. And it wasn't manipulation. It was simply saying, look, at the end of the day, here's some things that I want to be able to make moves on. And it just so happened that in this division, in this section, I am the first and only Black chief of staff. So to be able to work for Caucasian men, once again, we're back at it, and it's really interesting because almost all the Caucasian men that I worked for are all Irish, every last one of them, and it wasn't until my former, who's now gone on to do better and great things, had really decided that he saw value in me. So we go back to sponsorship. Karen was taking me places that I, at one point, wasn't even an option. I knew I wasn't even a thought or a blip in their mind. But for him to say, get up, we're going. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at him sideways like, where are we going? Is this not coffee? I don't care.
Just in the car.
Yep, that's what it was. Let's go. Or there's conversations that he's having via email and he's deliberately CCing me on. Not blind copy, because that's the difference. To be BC and CC'd, you're able to say, okay, well, who is this person that they keep on CCing? Who is this? Who is this? And then they're starting to put names and faces. And they're realizing like, oh, this is Karen's number 2. It didn't matter. There was a bunch of other deputies in the room, that you had all these other high senior.
Just go to her.
Book, and that's what he would tell you. If you need anything out of me, you go to her first. She will make sure that I'm right, but in order to do it, we need to make sure that you have what you need. It wasn't the secretarial side because he had one. But it was also like I was the confidant. I made sure that before he left his office, he was clear on the assignment. He knew what to do, how to do it. He also understood from the perspective of saying, look, what's going on out there in the bullpen that I need to be aware of. All right, you want to have the conversation now? Yeah, I need to hear it. Boop, boop,
yes.
Boop, 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 boop.
Yes.
And he took it, and it wasn't him taking it as like jabs and hits, because normally when you take that hardcore, honest information that you're getting, like, yo, they not feeling you. This might be a couple things that you should do or you want to do. And he takes that pill and he's like, you know what? It goes down better with some Prosecco. Okay, well here it goes. All right, here we're gonna pop this bottle. We're gonna talk. And he made the changes. He wasn't ego tripping. He wasn't set tripping. He was just like, you know what, you're right. I'm the newest kid on the block. But there's not that many men, and I'll say it, white men that's willing to take a sister's advice.
Yes.
Make it applicable.
Because this is the thing about it. When we speak, even with our own people, I have to say, Black men and corporate spaces, it's like we're offensive.
Oh, girl.
Don't be offended.
Yeah.
And honestly, yes. And then honestly, when they do want you to speak, you're like, no, I don't have nothing to say.
Right.
Because at that time, you're like, look, I don't trust you. Why would I even say anything now? Because the last time I said something, we had a
Yep.
problem. So
Yep.
now you want to ask me, I don't have nothing to say. And usually when we as Black women get quiet, it's because we're working on an exit strategy. We've given up
Shut
on the
down.
space. We don't feel like you're hearing us regardless of what we say or do. There's nothing there's no way I can dress sound. There's just nothing I
Right.
can do authentically to please you. I'm on the way out.
So, I mean, for those who are going to be watching this later, Caucasians, Saltines, this message for you. When your minorities stop talking, that needs to be a hint that they are already halfway out the door.
If they never talked in the first place, that's also a hint. They didn't come in trusting you.
Facts.
And you have to expect that. You have to expect that when we get into a new space, that we may not say anything at first because we're just trying to figure out the lay of the land. But if they don't eventually say something, you got a problem. And it's not, it may not be them, it might be you.
So how do you start breaking that ice, I should say,
for me? It would have been nice if I had a mentor or a sponsor, probably start off at a mentorship so I can understand what I was walking into. And a sister or a brother to take me by the hand, or it doesn't even have to be a sister or anybody to take me by the hand and say, okay, you have potential, but these are the things we need to work on.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm not going to lie. There were times I was straight cutthroat. Like even in the military, they was like,
you about to get kicked out.
Smith, Sumner, whatever your name is this week. What?
You gotta go.
It's like,
it's been real for you.
Shut it down. And it would be nice. People are so afraid to be full leaders because they're on, especially in the civilian space, because they feel like your job is going to be taken.
Yep.
And my thing is, there's always space. So if you demonstrate that you're a leader by honing the skills of your subordinate, they will make room for you to grow.
Oh yeah.
You can't be too afraid for someone. That's what leadership is. I'm gonna train you to take my job so I can take somebody else's job.
Everybody's scared about that. So that's the part, right? It's that part of people being so scared of just giving up all the information and giving all the keys because they already know, like, if I give you all the keys, then I don't have nothing left to A, manipulate, B, try and play the field later when I need to, or C, get to a place where you're like, yeah, now I know everything, because now you can't be the only person that knows everything, have all the information. They all look at you. So it's like,
but that's the thing about it. If you're the smartest person in the room, you in the wrong room.
Hello.
Nobody wants to be with the smarty pants. They want to be with the smart person.
Yep.
But they don't want to be with the know-it-all.
Yep.
And if your people don't know what they need to know to grow, that just makes you look bad.
Or I got one even worse. Or you've gotten to the place that you've only told one other person the information that you know, and the rest of the office is like, so what's the deal? Oh, right. Don't worry about that. Go to X, Y, and Z. Well, X, Y, and Z not here half the time. So what am I supposed to do? Now we all looking crazy except two of y'all. That's a problem.
Everybody, leadership will look at it like, why y'all always the only two? Like at first it looked like y'all were on top of things, and now it just looked like y'all are selfish. Because when you hold out, the whole team fail.
But you know what's interesting when you say that? I think for private sector, so now we're going to get into a whole nother thing. Private sector, you can be a little bit more honest about that. You can kind of be on that at will, state where you can pretty much lose your job because you finicky, versus the government. Girl, it's going to take all heaven, hell, water, Abraham, Sarah, and 15,000 disciples to come down and remove this individual from their position.
Yeah, government is tougher. Like the wonderful thing about the Army, it was hard to lose your job.
Yeah, you can mess up so bad, you'd be like, I'm going to do this on purpose just so I can see if they're going to let me go. And today, I wouldn't.
And I think that's what is tough for us. When we come out of the military and we get into a job, it's so easy to get fired, and you can have a stellar career. You can have great evaluations. You get into a civilian job and they fire you. You're like, wait, hold on for a second. You threw me away. I ain't never been thrown away.
Hello, and that becomes
And
that
it's
ego
crushing
trip
to
then.
your soul.
Whoo, that ego hit. Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
worst thing ever. When you got someone that's straight out the military and then they transition to government, and they're either it's one side of the coin, if they're so used to just rules, regulations that they can't think for themselves, that makes it even harder. It's like, I need you to be creative in this lane or in working on this project. Well, you tell me what to do and then I will do it. No, that doesn't work for me. But
And that's where I come in.
yeah,
And I help you fix that.
right. So we're talking about being able to move and transition and shift, especially when we're trying to figure out for those who are minorities. So in your personal opinion, what do you wish you could have done differently before you chucked the deuces and you started your own business?
Honestly, I wish I had the courage to speak up and say, I don't know and I need help. This is where I want to be and I need help. I had such imposter syndrome. Like on the outside, I was like a steel cage, but on the inside, I was so afraid. You know, they're not going to like me. I'm not polished enough. I don't have the right connections. Like I had all of the excuses.
Yeah.
And if I would have just spoke up and said, I need help and trusted, it doesn't guarantee that I would have been better, but I think I would have fared out a little bit better. Just because and I don't think I would have hit it right on the first person. Like, I think I would have had to ask a couple of people, but at least they would have known, okay, this is where she wants to go.
Right.
And she needs help getting there. She's smart. She's got the raw materials, but she just needs help.
And that's where I come in. All that emotional intelligence. That's where you come and hit me and my crew up for literally that exact thing. That's the one huge I guess indicator of when you know that it's time to either pivot or you decide that you do want to move up, but the pattern becomes everyone telling you the same thing. Like, all right, you want to move, however, you're not that self-aware, or better yet, you always got a funky attitude. I've had the last 3 of my clients come to me because they had a funky attitude.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, we need to start shape shifting some things. Like, let's just be honest and call it what it is, so we can start creating that space. But I do want to bring back one thing that you mentioned earlier about having a sponsor and having an ally. I think having a sponsor that is both a minority and a non-minority would be key, because just like you said earlier, being able to have somebody pull you to the side, be like, look, sis, one, for the non-minority, they're not going to tell you how to play the game. Like, if we've been in this for so long, I'm going to give you the cheat codes. This is how you level up doing X, Y, and Z. Start looking at it from this perspective versus that perspective. But then also having someone put you to the side, like, yo, boo, you can't be wearing that. And I've had a couple of old heads pull me to the side because I'm tatted up, and they're exactly,
you got to cover it up.
Yep, that's what they told me. I felt some type of way. I can tell you, I went home. I had an attitude the rest of the day. Because they were like, it's a turnoff and it's distracting, not just to us, but to them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really?
But you know what? Honestly, at the heart of it, some people are not cut out for the corporate space.
Facts. Yep.
I did much better working for myself than I did working for other people. Not that I was a bad employee, but I asked too many questions.
Yeah, that alone is going to get you put out.
What do you mean? I don't understand. How come we're going to do that? Well, why is that necessary?
Right.
And I wanted to do things. I was thirsty to do things my way. I desperately wanted autonomy in what I did, how much money I made. And it really grated my nerves that, one, I had to ask permission to take care of my family. Like, why do I got to ask you to take a sick day for my child?
Yeah.
To me, I can't. I had to ask permission to get a raise. Like, why are you in charge of how much money I make?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Then you find out that your counterpart made more than you.
Right? You're like, hold on.
But you do less than me.
Right? Like every
Look at
time
them
you
say-
mess up, I got to clean it up. I don't understand.
Right. I'm
You
like, do
know,
I get a bonus for that? For all that?
right?
Cool.
So for me, business ownership was good because I get to do things my way. I get to be 100% me.
Yeah.
And if a lead didn't like it, they didn't have to hire me.
That part.
And honestly, in the small business space, you're accepted more for being who yourself
Yeah.
than if you work for somebody. I don't know why that's the case, because I'm really doing something I could have done for you for cheaper. But now you're going to have to pay me more on the outside.
Right. Right.
So I like, if you worked for yourself and you didn't, and they hired you as a subcontractor, you probably can show your tattoos and walk in there and do whatever.
Yeah.
But because you work for them, it's almost like they have a mentality like you belong to me, which was another thing that I could not abide. I was like, I don't belong to nobody but Jesus. Like, I don't understand. Right? Like, I don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think some people at some point, you just need to have a discussion with yourself. Like, what do you want?
Yeah.
Do you want to climb the corporate ladder, or do you want to work for yourself?
Right.
Don't quit your corporate job before you work for yourself now.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about that.
Pause.
Okay. So, all right. So now we're getting real comfortable. All right. Let me scoot up a little bit. So now let's talk about, because this stuff that I will guarantee on most social media, nobody really talks about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've seen a couple people here or there trickle, but a lot of the mystique that comes with being an entrepreneur is people telling like, yeah, I just quit my job and you can do it too. Hold up now. Wait a minute.
Listen,
what would you tell those who are even like me, still got a full-time day job, still an entrepreneur? You know, I know for me, I need a FU number in order for me to then walk away. And right now I am not there yet.
Everybody's different. For me, I just jumped. However, I couldn't take it. Like, mentally, it was just killing me. I just jumped. However, I had a pension coming in. My husband was working. We had child support. So it wasn't like we had nothing coming in. We just had to live a lot tighter. But I woke up and was like, yeah, here you go.
Time.
I'll be out in 30 days. Thank you very much. I felt like, you know, God was saying it's time. I felt like he was giving me the signal, because even my mom is like a 2-3 job type of person. She was like, sometimes God is waiting for you to jump so he can give you a parachute, so he can catch you, but he can't catch you if you're not in air. So I'm gonna need you to jump.
Oh, hallelujah, mom, on that one.
Right. So for her to say it, I was like, oh, maybe there's something to this.
Right. Versus mine, who's polar opposite. You know, she's a boomer. My parents are boomers. They're like, you better keep that good government job, girl. What's wrong with you?
Now, listen, I'm not saying you jump arbitrarily.
Right.
You have to jump when it's right for you, if you're a jumper. For me, it was spirit-led, and everything kind of like lined up after that. That doesn't mean I didn't have like hard times in my business. That doesn't mean I'm not trying to build from COVID now.
Yeah.
What it means is that he provided me a subcontract as soon as I jumped. However, if you jump at the wrong time and when you're not supposed to, you're going to feel it. The jump isn't cushy.
Yeah.
You're going to bump up against a rock. You might drop too hard. You might scrape your butt on the way down.
Right.
Some people need to keep their job.
Yeah.
A lot of people need to keep their job, because there are expenses in business that you never even accounted for, because you just don't know.
Right. And this is why you need to have a coach that honestly will be able to at least help you understand, one, what's the cost? And then also, what's the risk if you decide that you are ready to roll? You know, can you afford your mortgage? If you have children, that's another reason why I was like,
are you okay with driving Lyft and Uber into the money isn't so tight? I did that for a little while, because guess what? I didn't have any. COVID was rough.
Yeah.
So I had one client. It was a corporate client, and I had to do Lyft and Uber and deliver groceries to bring in the money. You have to be able to swallow your pride so
Right.
you can do what you have to do. So if you're one of those type of people who are like, nah, I'm not, no, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say entrepreneurship is definitely for the birds on the days that you're having to grind out longer than my 9 to 5. Like some
Hmm.
days I'm like, yo, 8 hours look pretty good to me right now. I know it ain't my dream.
Right.
It's the government's dream. It's
If
somebody's
you
dream.
if you're
But
not willing to do it for free, don't do it. Because guess what? When you first start, it's gonna be free.
it's a lot of free.
It's
That was
it's
my
free
first year.
99. Volunteer. You should
I
be a
was
nonprofit for at least the first 60, at
girl.
least the first year. Now there are ways you can make money, but you got to have the right mindset, which is why you need a coach.
Yeah.
You know, you got to understand that you are worth being paid 4 to 5 figures out the gate. And then you need to be realistic about how much money you actually need to make so you can pay your bills.
Mm,
So, say you need $4,000, you need to multiply that by 3,
yep.
and that's how much your business need to make. 4,000 is for you.
Hmm.
The other third goes into savings, and then you have a third for business bills and stuff.
Yep. Yeah.
Taxes need to come out before you start dividing, though.
Girl.
Them
Let
ta-
me let me shout out to Profit first. I did not read the book. I will be honest, I did not. Google University found the spreadsheet in which the book breaks down of having like 5 or 6 different
Mm,
checking accounts in
yeah.
your business account. And that's literally how I break up my money. Matter of fact, my husband just called earlier talking about, well, wait, what is all this extra money over here for? You ain't put that in the quarterly spreadsheet. I'm like, nah, but it all falls on. Yeah, and he was like, no, 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 no. So we had to break everything up from like, here's the first profit, here's a tax or sales account,
Hmm.
here is the owner's pay because you have to pay yourself, and then
Yes.
here's operationals because there's operational cost factor that comes with
Yes.
it, and then everything else that has to be divvied in between the two. Registration fees for different conferences
Hmm.
you applying for. That was, I think, I would say
Girl.
my first year, and we're doing our taxes now. The amount of money that we kicked out this first year of this business could have been less. Yeah, probably. But I know for me, it's either you do it right or you don't do it at all. And I
Yeah.
wasn't doing nothing half-ass. So me
Hmm.
writing these children's books, should have gotten probably, a bootleg mock-up of a lion. Probably could have, but I wasn't. I wasn't.
This is,
Everything
I
was
mean, honestly, what I what I have everything I teach my clients is something I learned the hard way. And then I figured out how to do better, right? And so when you first start, this will tell you how serious you are about the trade that you're going into.
mm,
So when I was in skincare, because I started off with Butter Angels, I made my own skincare products. I didn't want to go to school because I figured out stuff on my own. When I
yeah.
went to start to be a coach, I went to coaching school.
Yep. Yes.
But it showed me how serious I was about coaching versus skincare. If you're willing to put some money down, and coaching school was like at least $12,000,
Hello.
and that doesn't include the travel and all that other stuff that went with it. I went to
Mhm.
IPEC. If you're willing to put the money down to educate yourself about that trade, even if you have a degree, guess what? You're serious.
Yep.
So if you're serious about having your startup coaching practice, you need to get help because
Yeah.
you don't know what you don't know, and your brain get it. It's a whole nother mindset being a business
Girl.
owner. You got to think different. You don't have that check coming on the regular basis.
Right. So what are you
So
going
if
to
you
do?
mess up, like if you don't do your sales work, you hungry.
Girl, yeah,
People are
that's
calling you like that website is
trash.
about to get shut down, you
Right.
know.
Trash.
Right?
Yeah, no, you're
So
right.
it's just the
Absolutely.
real of it. So
Yeah.
you have to get a coach because even if it's not me, even if it's not Coach Ham, you got to get a coach who's going to be able to sit down and say, listen, the real of it is blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
Don't get a website when you first started. You don't need it. Nobody know who you are.
Yep.
Who are you? Ain't
Yep.
nobody coming to website because they don't know your name.
That's true. But you gotta talk about that sales side of the house. It's like, all right, you're creating content, and I learned this the hard way.
Hmm.
I'm creating content, but who's your market? I thought in the beginning that my market was, I was gonna be a coach for the aspiring leader of color. Girl, when I tell you my business coach was like, what the hell does that mean? I'm like, They were like,
I don't
inspiring
know.
leaders of color. She was like, but what does that mean? Like, I don't understand. You're too vague. Like, you need to
You
be
know what?
more.
The
Right.
closest thing to your target audience is who you were before the transformation.
That part.
Finding out your target audience is an intimate thing. You got to figure out what she eat, read, think, whatever.
You
What's
basically
her
a
life
stalker.
like?
You low-key a stalker.
Basically.
Yeah.
And it's hard to stalk somebody that you don't know.
Yeah.
But you knew who you were before the transformation.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be authentic, if you're going to be real and raw, you know your path. You know all that happened that led you up to wanting to make a change, and you know the crazy road you had to take, and you know how to reduce that road. You learned lessons, and you're like, look, it took me X, Y, and Z time. I'm gonna help you do it in 8 weeks or whatever.
Right.
It's who you are before the transformation, and you better figure that person out before you create anything. I don't know why people. I did it myself because I thought that's how it was supposed to be. I figured out my target audience after I made whatever. But once I figured out, like, oh, wait a minute, I'm hoping these people will buy it.
Girl, can we have a sister moment? It took me 6 months to create this course that I swore everybody gonna buy. It's gonna fly off the shelves. Like, why would you not need an emotional hijacking course? You pop off in the office. I popped off in the office before. Why would you not buy something that's gonna show you not to pop off? Girl, that thing collected dust for months, years. I think today is still slightly dusty. I'm having to refine it again because I was like, this is something that I swore was a need. It wasn't until my coach had to tell me, but is it what people want? I said, probably not, but they need it. They were like, well, you need to get them to that place so they could buy, because everyone buys emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
They do. Like, I can't tell you how many different things I bought off of Instagram ads because I was like, oh, I need that for my son because he's crazy. Or I need that because I'm tired.
It's only $17.99 for the rest of my life.
Yeah, like $18, knowing once you start doing the math, we're like, wait a minute. Hold on.
It add up.
It add up real fast. And I'm like, and I ain't there yet. So it comes back of understanding who are your people. And as you're building this village, and it has to be really intentional. You know, I talk about that all the time, about being extremely intentional about what you do and what you're going to put your energy into. So for us, we went to school. Like, I did ILCT. And yes, it took me 10 years to go through my coaching program, because in the beginning I was like, oh, I'll be a life coach because I knew I wanted to help. In my mind's eye, I definitely thought this was a shortcut around of not being a counselor or going to school as a social worker. So I said, oh, this is easy. I can do that. I don't got to go back for social work. Bet. And then I took the first 40 hours in the foundations class. And then I realized that this ain't nothing like therapy. I said, this ain't nowhere near close to therapizing. And I liked it better because it was more open and honest versus the therapy side, where you have a lot of contractual obligations, policies, and also state laws that you just cannot mess with. So I had to come back. You know, I took 10 years off. I knew the foundations. So of course, when people are asking like, well, how long have you been coaching? I have to be honest. I'm like, I've had a coaching degree for years, but practice doesn't make perfect. Practicing allows you to perfect your craft. It took probably the last 3 years for me of going to school during the pandemic, and then getting a very special certification under the emotional intelligence side so I can be a practitioner. And then the boards hit, last year. All of these things of saying, look, I realized I finally found my passion, but also my purpose. And if it took 10 years, then so be it. But what makes us, you and I, very different from the rest of these coaches is that we put money down. We got board certified. We made sure that not only are we going to continuously grow in this craft, because for coaching, you can't just study it and then be gone. Like, you got to practice. You have to practice.
It's a practice.
Clients. So for clients, if you're looking for us, we are here. We are taking on more clients. That's a big thing that people need to realize. Like, you got to put your money where your mouth is. And in order to do it, that's how your business grows. I think they said it takes 10 years for you to be like
a master or
master. Yeah.
something like that. Yeah. It's I get why people instantly call themselves a coach. Oh, I'm going to be a coach because it's not regulated.
Yep.
I cannot wait until ICF like finally gets this thing regulated. They've been talking about it for like the last 5 years, but it's not regulated.
Right.
And I get that many professionals are like, well, I've been doing this specific task for like 100 years. So yes, I can coach this person in it.
Right.
However, there are certain skills in coaching that will delineate coaching from consulting and mentorship. There's certain skills that you have to follow.
Yep. And you need to know the difference between all four.
Because what will happen is you run up against the wrong person. You start consulting coaching. Sometime I do. You're going to get called out for one.
Hello.
And you can do some damage.
Yep.
You know, some people need a consultant. Some people need a mentor. You know, they need somebody to either do it for them and talk about it or, you know, tell them about it in a certain way. And other people need coaching. I need to ask you specific questions based off of what you just said so you can think differently and more critically.
Yep. Yeah. But in order to do it, you also need to be honest in the beginning of your coaching relationship with your client. Figure out what exactly they're looking for before you even have them sign that check. And I think even in the beginning, we were pressed for money, right? We were pressed for clients. We needed to have clients so we can have testimonials. But it's like,
so you're trying to get everybody in the door.
Right. If you coaching everybody, you ain't coaching nobody.
Right?
Yeah.
But this is the thing about it, right? Like, okay, so my program, I try to get them on the path that they want to be on within the first 4 weeks or so. What are you really good at? This is what you're going to do. And you're only going to talk to those people.
Yep.
Oh, well, I need to make money. You ain't making money already.
Hello.
You running out and talking to every single person is not going to make you more money. It's going to frustrate you. I need you to have laser focus.
Yeah.
Because that's where the real money is. Yeah, you can be paid $2, $3, $4, $5, $6, $7, $8, $9, $10,000 or more dollars for your time. But you have to know that person's pain point and you have to be available to help them think critically in that space.
Yeah.
And you can't do that if you are trying to coach everybody on everything. Because there's certain things that you're not going to know how to navigate through.
Yep. And that also goes back with educating yourself. Like, I'm very clear when I tell people, like, yep, I'm an executive and leadership coach. However, I specialize in emotional intelligence. But for me in the back end, I am now having to take additional business coaching classes, or not even just business coaching classes, business classes, because I wasn't a business major in undergrad. Like, I was psychology. So I need to understand how the world of business works. So when you're dealing with corporate America, you need to be really clear on what you're dealing with and some of the politics that come with it. In order to do it, you're going to have to study it. Study.
You need, the best way to go about that is to talk to, I'm in one of her classes. I'm going to send you the link. She does corporate coaching. She's a coach. Yeah. And she does corporate coaching and she teaches people how to coach in the corporate space.
Oh, hit me up.
Does all that? Okay. That all makes sense. Okay, great.
Yeah, I need to.
I will send you her information.
And we'll definitely put it in the description here in the video as well. So for those who are interested, who's in the business coaching, executive leadership coaching, like we're in, definitely,
because it's not easy. First thing you ought to know if you're like, oh, I'm gonna only pursue businesses, is you need money coming in before you pursue those businesses, because they take forever to make up their mind. Forever. Yeah. You could be talking to a company for years.
Yeah. And well, that, but also for the small businesses, It took us about 6 to 9 months to become a certified small business, disadvantaged owned business, and
Yes.
women owned business. Thank you,
They
State of
want
Maryland.
them points. So
Yeah.
are you registered with SAMS? Are you
Yep.
registered with SBA? Do you
Yep.
have your DUNS number? Do you have a
Yep.
capability statement? Did you have you even started the process to go after other certifications? And some of these certifications take 3 years to
Yes.
prepare for.
Yep.
Have you started the process to get in the door? Because they don't want to look, even if they don't use the information, a lot of them don't even want to look at you unless you're in their procurement system.
Right.
This is a whole nother conversation.
Girl, I know. That needs to be a how-to manual, step by step. If you are a small business, you are trying to start tacking on corporate.
I got a class on that.
There it is. Go ahead and hit it, my sis, because Lord knows we learned the hard way. We did.
Yes.
I will say thank God for my business consultant who works with me and for me. It just happened that she was doing an internship at the Small Business Administration in Maryland.
Oh, so she was getting all the fresh information,
all
the new policy changes that were coming out before they came out.
And sis was feeding them to us because I was like, I needed everything. I had no idea, but anything that she sent, I read because I was serious. I'm like, look, you want some skin in the real game, not just for social media to say, look at me now, but it's like, no. If you trying to get the real bucks, which is, working, small stateside corporations, you're going to have to register. And
even with your own state, you got to understand that just because you won a contract, I learned this the hard way. You can win a contract and not get work.
Say what now?
You can win a contract, say with your state, or be a subcontractor for a prime and not get work.
Okay, well then that just made me upset.
It's not illegal. It's not illegal.
When I tell you we had put in for about 4 or 5 different RFQs for state and federal companies recently, ain't hear back from not one. And I understood the game that they're like, you got to keep on reaching out, keep on reaching out, keep on reaching out. And realizing it's also how you write your RFQ. So for those, this is your rec and your questionnaire, and then your proposal, 2 totally different things. And then also, thanks to my mentor, what are you pricing yourself at? So of course, even though
if it's too low, they'll do the math and be like, you can't function. You can't even pay yourself. No. If it's too high.
We were too high. We were coming in blazing like we was about to have a jet. We saw that 4.5 billion money. I said, well,
I'm going to take all of it. I need every single coin.
You don't even got to worry about nobody else. We got a 5-year extension. You can give it all to us now. Just cut the check. Yeah.
And then on top of that, they need to they want to see that you've had a couple of level 2, 3s, and 4s. This is all government contracting speak, y'all. We can talk about it later. Yeah. But there's a lot that goes into it. You can make good money, but it's a lot of times you got to prepare. It's not as easy as getting out on social media and talking about it. Right. And on the corporate side, they want to feel like you're only corporate, which is why I kind of put it aside so I can focus on the private side of the house. Because when you're coaching, people want to see that you're talking about what they're interested in. And if you have 2 different audiences, who do you talk to first?
That's true.
Right. That's true. You have to make a choice. You can't work with 2 separate audiences at the same time until you build your reputation with one particular audience.
Right. And once you do that, whether it's good or bad, that then floods.
Yeah.
Yeah. And once you're in there, you don't have to worry about it, but
it takes time.
Yeah.
And a lot of work, a lot of time and a lot of work.
We're the popcorn generation that we want it now. We feel like we're going to put in all this money. I dropped 10 grand on all this stuff. Look at my website, look at my business cards, thanks to Canva. And you ain't got nothing. Nothing to show.
Don't get your website first. You don't need it.
Sure.
You use your regular.
What people use? So that would be the other question. Like, what do you use? If you don't have a website, what we do?
You use your social media. Because if you don't have first of all, you don't need a website when you first start because you don't know who you're talking to. You don't have a brand.
Right.
Your brand doesn't mean anything because it doesn't exist. I'm not being nasty. I'm just trying to save you some coins.
Yeah.
So when you first start, you need to figure out what you represent, who you're talking to and what they need.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one person you're talking to,
Yeah.
period. I want to serve everybody. No, that's
Nah.
like a crazy person just talking to everybody. People are like, who he talking to? I don't know. He ain't
Like, I'm
talking to
talking
me.
to you and you and you and you.
Right. But if you're if you're sitting next to somebody and y'all just cackling away, people in
Yeah.
the room will stop to figure out what y'all talking about.
Yep.
And then they'll listen and be like, oh, that's me. Talk to
Right.
one person. People will listen in on the conversation when they're clear who you're talking to.
Right.
You can't talk to everybody.
I've also learned the hard way, and I think I've heard this a couple of times from a couple of different speakers. They were like, just because you've done something once doesn't mean it could be replicated.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a hard pill to swallow, because I know
Yeah.
there's people that are in the marketplace that's like, yeah, I've done this, but it was only once. Can it be replicated?
Yeah.
And if it can't be replicated, or you're trying to replicate it and it's just not showing fruit at the moment, is it really working?
You just need to change how you discuss it.
Yeah.
So if it has a longer life cycle, what are you really doing? Are you working on the fundamentals? That's good.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually it's going to lead to something.
Yeah.
Or are you really actually going to get them this something? It's
Right.
okay to work on one part, one little piece. And it's like, in this piece, you're going to learn how to do this thing.
Right. And do it well.
Yeah. That's
like,
all right.
Yeah.
And guess what, coaches? If you got a signature program, you're going to tweak that thing until you're going to tweak it. That's why you have pilot programs, which should not be priced less than 50% of what the whole rate is. That's a whole nother conversation. Okay. But yeah, because you're going to pay for the systems. You got to eat.
True.
Teachable ain't free. Thinkific.
Girl.
You can get one free course on Thinkific and it's not going to have all of the features. That stuff is not free. Even Member Vault stopped having a free plan.
Yeah.
With inflation, rates are going up. And you still want to feed yourself. How are you going to be able to pay yourself anything? The days of people starting startups and not getting paid it's not possible because you need to eat.
Right. And it's also being realistic about your fees. So we know for coaches in the beginning, we want to come out guns blazing, like, well, you're going to pay me $5,700 for this. Ma'am.
No, you're one of few who do that. A lot of coaches I meet, they want to charge $50 an hour. First of all, you messing up because you charging by hour.
Yeah, I was like, an hour.
And then on top of that, $50, I have a whole article written about that. I'm going to give you the link. You can't do nothing with no $50.
That's gas money. And it might not even be gas now with the prices, the way they're looking outside.
If you're working for somebody and it's $50, that makes sense because they did the sales, they did the marketing, they did the opportunity cost, the taxes, they did all of that.
Right.
So it makes sense. But if you're working for yourself,
yeah.
Right. Sir, ma'am, I need you to raise your rates to at least $250, $300 an hour.
Right.
You want to take a vacation, don't you? You don't want to have to work Monday through Friday. You don't want to have to work 100 hours a week.
Girl.
That's what you're going to have to do at $50.
Oh, yeah. We're going to maybe be doing a series.
I would rather clients come out blazing.
Yeah.
Because you can always give incentives. I don't say discount because we don't discount as coaches. No, we give incentives.
That's true. I've done a bell curve at some point for some of those individuals that were like serious, but they just couldn't come up with it. But I knew that their grind was going to get them. I said,
yeah,
bell curve.
Yeah, you can come in with some type of incentive and let them know what the value is, how much you normally charge. But you can't do nothing with $50.
Girl, that part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sis, I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Okay. Yes. We gotta wrap it up.
Yeah, we're gonna definitely wrap it up. For those who are trying to find you, need you, hit you up, where can they find you on all your social media platforms?
The best place to find me is on LinkedIn, Rolanda S. Sumner. It's on the screen, ROLANDESSUMNER, Sumner. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook at the same handle and on Instagram at the same handle. But LinkedIn is I'm on LinkedIn mostly, so find me on LinkedIn.
All right, so for all the professionals out there, you go on LinkedIn, you find her. But if you were definitely interested in checking out her show that she also has on YouTube, check out her channel as well. She's going to give you all types of gems. And for your girl here, if you are looking into figuring out what you need to do, how to pivot, emotionally get yourself in check, you could definitely hit us up at paramintelligence.com, or you can find us on IG, Facebook, and so forth under Hamla Coach or Parham Intel. So definitely check us out. Yes. We want to thank you so much, Rhonda, for this time, for being just as open and honest. And I cannot wait until we have you back on so we can start talking about.
I'm so excited. I need to book you on my platform. Yeah. We're going to talk about it though. But I had such a great time. Thank you so much. This was fun.
Girl, I was like, this is perfect for a 1 o'clock in the afternoon event. So I'm good. All right, guys, check us out later. Until next time, peace.